everyone, so today we're going to be talking about clearing fractions to solve equations. Now, if you've taken any of my classes, you know that I always look at a question, and if I see fractions, I just like to get rid of them. So it always just makes it easier for you, and any chance we can make it a little bit more efficient, we want to do that. All right, so to clear fractions in an equation, you look at the denominator and you want to find the lowest common denominator. And in this case, if you were to make the denominators the same, the lowest common denominator would be 15. But instead of doing that, instead of making the denominators the same, you're going to multiply every term by 15. Even if they're whole number terms, you want to multiply by 15. Now, when you do that, what's going to happen is the fractions are going to get cleared out. So for example, 3 is going to go into 15 5 times, and then you're going to multiply 5 times x minus 2. Now, be careful. You want to make sure you distribute. So that would give me 5x minus 10. Look, I cleared out the fractions. So here, 5 goes into 15 3 times, and so then you get 3x plus 3. And then you'd also do equals 3 times 15. Which is 45. Okay, so now remember when we're solving, we're finding the value of x that makes this equation true. So we simplify by combining like terms. So the x's are like terms, so that would give me 8x. Negative 10 plus 13, or plus 3 is going to give me negative 7 equals 45. Okay. All right, so now I balance the equation. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And I'm going to get 8x equals 52. And so if I divide by 8, then x equals 52/8. Okay? And that's a perfectly acceptable answer. Leaving it as a mixed number is fine. Or an improper fraction, sorry. All right, harder. Harder is when you've got parentheses because although you can clear fractions, you have to just be really, really careful. So first, find the lowest common denominator of these fractions. Don't worry about the one in the parentheses. And actually, I'm going to call this actually 10. I think I messed up and didn't put the right number in there. So I'm going to call it 10. All right, so the lowest common denominator of those outer terms would be 6. So I'm going to multiply this side by 6, and I'm going to multiply this side by 6. Now, you have to remember, this is a term, this is a term, and this is a term. So you only have to multiply the 6 once. And so I'm going to multiply it to the 1/3, which is going to give me on this side 2 times 2h plus a half. Okay? On this side, the 2 is going to go into the 6 3 times. And I'm going to get 3 times 2h minus 10. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to distribute. So I'm going to get 6h minus 30 equals 4h plus 1. Okay, now when I did that, the 2 and distributed the 2, that 1/2 got rid of it. So I need you to make sure you understand. It's like if I were to multiply 4 times 5 times 6, you wouldn't do 4 times 5 and 4 times 6. You would just multiply 4 times 5, get 20, and multiply times 6. That's why you only have to multiply the 6 to the 1/3. It's because of those parentheses and the commutative property. Okay, so now I just solved the equation. So I'm going to subtract 4h to both sides, and I'm going to add 30. And I'm going to get 2h equals 31. Now, if this is different than the one on your page, that's my fault. I just didn't type it in right. So just notice that. So h is 31/2. All right, so we're going to look at some more complicated ones. What if, because clearing isn't the easiest thing to do right off the bat. I want to look at equations and notice things before I jump in to solve. And so like on this equation, what I noticed is that I have a plus 2 and a plus 2. So if I subtract 2 from both sides, these actually simplify. They cancel out. So now I'm just given m over 2 equals 4m over 5. Now, some of you might be seeing a proportion, and remember, you can then clear fractions just by multiplying by the lowest common denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by 10. Okay, okay, so that's going to give me, if 2 goes into 10 5 times, that's going to give me 5m equals 8m. Okay, I'm going to isolate the variables. Some of you might already see that m has to be equal to 0, but because it's the only number you could plug in where 5 would, that they would be equal to each other. But if you didn't see that, you would isolate the variables. So you bring the 8m over. You get negative 3m equals 0, and then you divide both sides by 3. Now, remember, when 0 is in the numerator, the answer is 0. So you might have noticed that right here, and that would be perfectly acceptable to say m was equal to 0 right here. But this is the actual algebra that gets you there. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Let's move on. Last one. So it's similar to that one that we did a few minutes ago. So I'm going to say go ahead and try it. It's on your paper. Go ahead and try it. And then I'm going to show you another technique. Okay, so if you're back, you might have multiplied both sides by 2. And you could have done that. That would be totally fine. You also, if you wanted to, could distribute first and make it 1/2 x plus 1/3 equals 3x minus 3. So I tend to distribute just because, I don't know, it's a habit. And now I would multiply every single term by 6. So every single term. So 2 goes into 6 3 times, so I get 3x. 3 goes into 6 2 times, so 2 times 1 gives me 2. And that's going to give me 18x minus 18. So in this regard, I just found it to be quicker and easier for me. And then I don't have to worry about if I make a mistake multiplying to the wrong things. Okay, so that's going to give me 15x. I'm going to add 18 to both sides. So that's 20. And I'm going to divide by 15. And that's going to give me, I'm going to simplify that. Let's see. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 5 goes into 15 3 times, so 4/3. All right, guys, hopefully that was helpful. It's a very big skill in Algebra 2 for you to feel good, and geometry, to feel good about clearing equations with fractions. Standardized tests tend to test you on this concept as well. And anytime you have an opportunity to make an equation more efficient, you're going to want to do that. Same thing with decimals, clearing decimals, okay? All right, have a great day.